Hello and welcome to Brands Hatch. Today we're going to be talking about ACC and how friendly it is. And I could even go as far as saying that it's definitely the friendliest simulator out there for casuals, for mere casuals like me, for instance. Because I always had a issue with like most simulators out there, considering AI races mostly, which is not much on the AI aspect per se, because we have sims with like great AI, like Automobilista, we could even say our Factor 2 depending on track and mod, Assetto even the first one, but there was a little issue regarding how unforgiving it is. So if you're like somewhat hardcore simmer that doesn't like any sort of driving assistances and stuff, you would find yourself losing precious time of your life after like a 15-minute race, and then you got a little unlucky and you spin and curb, and then you get mad, you alt F4 out of the game and take a long break from racing, only to try again, and eventually it happens again and your fun is gone, your day is ruined, which was of course something that happened a lot to me, more than I could count, and more than I would like to say. It happens. It was very frequent. It became an issue. It sort of ruined sim racing for me. I became comfortably numb. I mean, not really. I got into hot lapping, which would be basically myself and the track, and if I spun, that would be solely my fault, and you just go back to the pits, try again. Fun. I mean, it is cool, yes it is, but racing against the AI is also pretty dope, and I really wish that I could do that. I mean, as a casual myself, I cannot say that I'm really fast. I'm not the most competitive player out there. I do screw up all the time. I'm not very consistent, quite the opposite. So the standard racing sim did not work for me. I mean, I could get 20 consistent laps and stuff and enjoy the race and the flow and stuff, and then I would eventually fuck up and ruin the whole race, which then led me to do some things that I'm very ashamed of, which made me resort to games like Forza Motorsport or Formula 1, which is not a bad game by any means. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's not a simulator. So yeah, it's really shameful when you somewhat hardcore simmer, when you actually have to try something else, something which is not quite a simulator, just to have a similar kind of enjoyment, racing the AI, actually feeling the thrill of a race and stuff, which usually, arcade games do it better, but because of the sole fact that you can be far more consistent and it's more forgiving, which, you end up just not considering the fact that it's not really a simulator. You forget about it. You get into the race, you get immersed, and you just forget about it. And then, after some resistance on my part, because I heard from a lot of people that ACC was basically Assetto, physics-wise, and it would feel quite like Assetto, but that it would have that little extra, which of course are the graphics, and the fact that it's fully licensed, and then you have a bunch of real world liveries, and the tracks are better, and the kind of stuff, And I also heard that it was pretty cool for AI racing, that it could actually enjoy a proper single player experience, which was not quite the strong point in Assetto. The first one, you could actually race and all, but it was a little unforgiving for people that are not aliens, you know, people that are not like 100% consistent. It would take one curb, one mistake to ruin your race. While I noticed after my first half an hour or so during the free weekend, which was a week ago or something, I ended up like trying ACC, and it didn't take long until I realized that it was really a masterpiece in many ways. First of all, it not only has like very similar physics, of course, to the previous AC, it does feel a lot more convincing. Like the force feedback, the way the car, the weight shifting in corners, the way the car brakes, the sounds, the whole atmosphere, it just feels right. And add that up to the fact that it's fully licensed, and you know, it brings the whole GT World Championship atmosphere down to the point where you actually feel like you're a pilot and not a driver. I mean, not a pilot. I've been flying way too much. Either way, the fact is, I've never had such a great time before racing the AI. I mean, I did have a similar experience with R Factor, but I would eventually get frustrated. After a bit, I would eventually make a mistake, and that would ruin the race. That would just ruin the day for me, and that's usually what happened, as I mentioned before. But ACC does seem to be forgiving in a way that I've never seen before. Like it does give you some room for being a little more aggressive, trying some stuff out that you wouldn't try in our Factor or Assetto, because it would be like, what if I overrun? What if I miss the braking spot? What would happen? And then it just gives you some freedom. And even if you eventually do something bad, like get off the track, you will not spin. You will not like ruin your race. You can just get right back in without losing like 10 positions. You would be losing like 1 or 2, considering I mean, I'm not considering the hardest AI settings. Of course, we're talking about 85, 86ish, 87, 88. Anything above 90 is just standard. It's kind of hard. You got to be pushing the car to the very limit, and eventually, I mean, when you talk about driving on the very edge, it also means that you are vulnerable to screwing up and dying. Not literally, but you know what I mean. So for casuals, which are people that appreciate sim racing, that like the whole concept of like realism and stuff, and having like no assists and stuff, and just, you know, pretending that you actually are fast against the AI, which is nerfed, of course. But you know, casuals like me find that very enjoyable. I do find that enjoyable. I'm speaking for myself, of course. But yeah, and ACC does that just right, straight to the point where you actually, you know, feel like a pilot. You feel like a driver. God damn it, you feel like you're a driver, you know. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. Like every race, you get better, you get more and more and more into the flow. Your times are lower, and you start like cornering like a driving Jesus. And it's so much fun. The battles with the AI are very consistent. The AI does not screw you up. By that I mean they don't really crash into you. They don't make you spin. Looking at you, AC. Looking at you, R Factor. So you can actually have a very clean, very convincing race. I'm not saying the AI is like 100% convincing. It does have some you know, it doesn't really feel like you're racing against humans, that's for sure. It's a little, you know, you can tell right away it's AI, but it does offer you a challenge. It's a very, very, very fair challenge, all things considered. I mean, I'm talking from a casual standpoint, not from a pro driver standpoint. But for a casual, I do find that very challenging in the door-to-door racing, which, you know, it is quite fun. I gotta say, it's quite fun, and I haven't had that in so long. I really don't remember what was the last time that I actually had fun racing against the AI. So I think that's a plus. Because even though, I mean, I know that people would eventually prefer MP, but when you are like a casual that's not very consistent nor very fast either, it gets frustrating real quick. By that I mean, you know, you can like start doing well and then you end up screwing up and ruining your race or someone else's, which is not something I look forward to. It's not cool. You know, if it were only myself, if I were to be screwing up only my race, that would be okay. I mean, my fault, I made a mistake, fair enough. But when there's other people and you end up like ruining other people's fun, that's not cool. That's definitely not cool. So I resort to single player, which is fairly more forgiving in a sense that you're not really ruining anyone's day. So that's a plus. And also you can eventually get better and end up like getting into MP and like racing other humans and, you know, shining. But the whole, you know, process from starter, from like noob to an actual consistent simmer, it does take a lot of effort. You gotta battle the AI, and that was very frustrating back in the day. That would lead to a lot of anger. I mean, maybe it's just myself. Maybe it just happens that I get easily frustrated, which is true. I'm not denying that. But I've noticed that like back in the day when I would try and, you know, raise the AI to get better and, you know, faster to eventually play online, I would give up. I would really give up because, you know, you end up realizing that, well, what is the point, you know, racing for like 40 minutes and then just spinning and there you go, the race is over, you lost everything, you lost your time. What do you get from that? You get nothing, absolutely nothing. And even though ACC does leave a margin for that as well, it does have ways to stop you from, you know, ruining your day, basically, because it has a safety safety rating thing that like deducts points when you crash, when you get crashed on as well, which is a problem, but it does lead you to become a very conservative driver. So by becoming a conservative driver, that means you won't be doing anything dumb that could be risking your race. As in going for a gap that's not quite a gap, you know, you think it is a gap, but it's not really, and you're gonna crash or get crashed on, which eventually happened with previous games, which it was a problem I had issues judging, and I would just go very impulsively and, you know, ruin everything for myself, and the game sort of holds you back from doing that because then there's a consequence. You know, back in the day it was basically a risk and reward, you know what I mean? Like there's a gap, I could go for that gap, there could be consequences, I could spin, I could lose the race, but also I could get that position, or I could crash. But if you crashed, that would be just a crash. That would not be really much of an issue, other than, you know, you would feel like, God, that's not very realistic. Yeah, I'm like crashing. That's not how a race is supposed to go. We're not supposed to be crashing into people. But, you know, you would eventually just move on, you know, shrug it off. Whatever. I crashed, but let's pretend that that didn't happen. Which now is an issue. If you crash, you lose points. And people care about points. I care about points. Not sure about you, but I do care about my points. I want to keep my points, you know, looking good. Therefore, I take a lot more time thinking, should I go for the gap? Should I really try that? Should I really go that far? Oh, maybe I should break earlier. I don't want to risk touching that guy's back. I don't want to risk, you know, going door to door in the corner, because I could eventually crash and make him spin and I would lose points. So by being more conservative, that means you last more in the race. And by lasting more in the race without spinning, without DNFing, that also means you're getting more enjoyment out of it. You're enjoying yourself a lot more. And then, there comes a catch. You finally find yourself a place where you can race the AI and have fun for hours and hours and hours without getting frustrated by avoiding. The game sort of forces your mind, and it tricks your mind into becoming a safer driver. And by becoming a safer driver, taking no risk, that also means that you will not spin or get off the track if you're not really pushing it too much. You know, if you're staying within a comfort zone without, you know, getting too far off from it, without steering off from it, that does mean you can finally have a race without consequences, without bad consequences. Because the whole risk and reward thing, despite pretty cool, I mean, it's dope to pull a Senna sometimes and just, you know, make your way through the grid and win the race. But also it could mean bad stuff. It could mean a crash, it could mean a spin, a spinala. El Spinnerino. So yeah, it really like forces you in a way to like drive more realistically, and that's the key factor there. You know, it finally brings an element that forces you indirectly. It's not blatant, it's not right on your face, but it does make you a safer driver. And when you become a safer driver, you learn how to race properly by not taking risks, because in real life that's how it is. You know, you don't have to be a winner to be a good driver. You don't have to be the fastest to be a good driver. You have to be consistent. Deliver results consistently. Whether you are a top 5 kind of guy, whether you are you know, a top 10 kind of guy, where you are a back marker, it doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent, as long as you do your part as a P1, as a P5 or whatever, as long as you know your place and you can hold it safely and do your job consistently over and over and over and over and over without making mistakes, that's it. That's where you get enjoyment from. You learn, you finally realize that winning's not everything. That's not the point. Because, I mean, yes, you could race full on crazy and, you know, start from like last and then just go finding your way through, going for the gaps, all the gaps, taking a lot of risks, and you could win by crashing, making people spin. You would win the race, but then what? Was that clean? Was that realistic? Would that happen in real life? Is that something that it could see like actually happening? Probably not. So that's the whole point there. That's the whole point there. You know? Sometimes winning is no merit if you don't do it properly, if you don't do it like it's supposed to be. By racing clean, racing fast, being consistent. That comes with time. That does come with time. You cannot force your way there. You cannot become a champion without being. You cannot become a champion without being a loser first. Because only then you can get enough experience to build your way to the top. So with this, with this phrase of wisdom, I say goodbye. See you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. and make sure to leave your feedback. You know, hit the like or dislike or comment, up to you if you want to subscribe or not. That's pretty much it. Take care. See you guys in the next one.